All right. Next up, we have longtime partner of Cochran Supply, and that's Alex Waibel, president of BuildingLogix. He's going to show off the latest and greatest and some new technology that they have rolling out. So, Alex, take it away.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm going to echo a few things. I look like I got antennas. Is this working?
It should, yeah.
Is this? Oh, hey, perfect. I'll echo a couple things that I've heard already. First of all, Scotty C, thank you. I think one of the best parts of these events is the opportunity to see people that we don't typically see, visit with people we don't typically get to visit with. I brought several guys here, and the biggest thing that I said to them was make sure you introduce yourself. So for the people that are new, I would certainly encourage you to, introduce yourself, say hello. I've learned so much from people in this room. Mitch, Nate, certainly Ed over there, one of the best resources in our industry. And can't thank him enough for all you've done for me personally, for our business, and more importantly for our industry. Thank you. So. When I started coming to these, I didn't need reading glasses. Jesus, these suck. Now I gotta stand so far away because I got 4 different powers of these. All right. Okay, perfect. Well, my presentation isn't nearly as fancy as what you've seen already. I'll tell you a little bit about us. I think one of our big challenges is talking about the challenges of our industry, which unfortunately have not changed a lot. I've been in this business for over 25 years, and we had a manpower problem 25 years ago. Has it gotten any better? No, it hasn't, right? One of the biggest challenges on this is we move really slow. I mean, our industry is glacial. And it sucks. I mean, we talk about innovation, and Nate's right. I mean, most of the stuff we're talking about has occurred 10 and 12 and 15 years ago in most other industries. I mean, when you're talking about connected things, think about what Epic has done with electronic medical records. Think about the cell phone that you've got in your hand. Think about the automobile industry. And all of those things are so far ahead of where we are. Why is that? What do you think?
Something you don't think about. It's overlooked.
Well, I don't think it's overlooked, but what I do think is the buildings last a long time, right? What's the lifespan of your cell phone?
3 years. 7 months.
Yeah, it's between 7 months and 18 months. What's the lifespan of your car? I mean, you're not driving them for 15 years, too. But the lifespan of the building is a long time. And to prove that this industry moves really slow, I said the same thing 15 effing years ago. I mean, and it's still true. So we got to speed some things up, right? So we got to put a little rocket on that turtle. Part of the reason I asked for this is because I can't see the screen without my glasses on, so I'm going to move down here so I can see this, talk a little bit about it. I mean, some traditional functions of our BAS system, you can see those. We know what they are. We got to run a sequence of operations. Today we're talking about analytics and those types of things. Jack, you're going to run my clicker up there, buddy. Okay, because you got better eyes than I do. How much has changed in 15 years on what that is? I think the biggest difference is people are now starting to talk about data. They're starting to talk about analytics. How do we drive different actions? But that really is about the only thing that's different than what we had 15 years ago. Here are some of the problems and pain points associated with building automation. It can be expensive. It can certainly be proprietary, right? And I give a ton of credit to Scott and to Viking. I want to be very specific. I'm not giving credit to Tritium, I'm giving a lot of credit to Viking. Because they helped create this community right here. And I heard somebody say it yesterday, I'd like to give them credit, I can't remember who said it. This part of the country has more innovation and more people doing, I'll say, unique things inside of the building automation space than anywhere else. And a lot of that is because of you, Scott. I'm not just sucking up to you because you're right, it is Cochran Supply. And I apologize, but you've been a good leader inside of the business, and certainly inside of the industry, but your business and your people have helped drive some of that innovation. But these challenges still exist. Cybersecurity, that's probably one of the other new things, right? How much time, and I like, Nate asked some good questions. How many times are we talking about cybersecurity when we're in front of people today? And who talked about cybersecurity 15 years ago? Nobody. I mean, we didn't even know what that was. So I think one of the other big challenges that we have is most of our customers see the building automation system as an energy management system, and it's not. Energy management is not going to be automated just because I put a control system inside of a building. But they want something, right? They want lower costs. The commercial that you had at the beginning, was really important because we've got vehicles today that are incentivizing the owners to work with people like us to drive energy savings. And I think, and Mitch, if I'm wrong, your technology in large part is for your business and businesses like yours. You're in the temperature control business. You got to do things faster, you got to do them with less people, you got to do them more efficiently, right? And I couldn't agree more. We also have a huge inventory of existing buildings, right? Because the building doesn't just get knocked down. Well, maybe a few in Detroit, but they're rebuilding. But typically the building's around for a long time. So we got to find issues faster. And more importantly, and you were talking about commissioning, we got to hold people accountable. I mean, that's one of the big challenges too. We have service technicians showing up. How do we hold them accountable? Whether that's from the perspective of the owner, the business owner, the service manager, the customer or the chiller plant operator. That's a big challenge inside of our industry. Okay, next. Now we're in the FTD space, or analytics. But really, what we've morphed into, what we've evolved into is a professional services. And I think that's what we have to start thinking about inside of our industry. I'm not just a controls contractor. I'm not just a mechanical contractor. We've got to do more and communicate the value of what that more is. Because here are some of the challenges associated with FDD and analytics and all those things that we've been talking about again for 10, 12, 15, 18 years. It's still not very well adopted. It's too expensive. And a lot of times it can be. If we don't have a real value case, it can be hard to set up, and I think that's really what you were talking about. How can I get a consistent data layer going somewhere consistently with a rule set that I don't have to rebuild every single time, and more importantly, and I'm going to echo something that Nate said here, we have to have a process, right? We have to drive to action. Just because I have an independent data layer, or just because I have data organized, doesn't mean anything's getting any better. And not only do we have to drive to action, we got a manpower problem, we got a people problem, because I can give you a list of stuff that's got to be fixed, but literally I can't get anybody out to my building to fix it. That's a challenge, right? So our process, and this is what we really, have tried to drive, is around connecting, collecting, organizing, analyzing, taking action, and then validating something that has been done. And this has evolved a lot over the last, I'll say 7 to 10 years. It really used to stop after the fourth bubble. Hey, if we get things organized, we collect data consistently, and we give you information, everything will be great. That was not the case. If we get you and can tell you where you need to act, okay, great. That's not enough either. We've got to make sure around that accountability piece that something actually was done, and then ultimately there was a result, whether that was good, bad, or otherwise. So what I'll talk a little bit about today, and like I said, we're in the FDE space. We've had a platform out there called the BuildingLogix Data Exchange, or BDX, for 15 years. And truthfully, we've had a level of success with it. But at the same time, we've seen and we need to continue to evolve as well. And when we talk about a manpower problem inside of our industry, it always comes back to how do we attract young people into this industry? And we got to have something that they're interested in, something that they have a level of experience with. And one of the things that we started noticing with the clients that we were working with, which is a lot of universities, was Python is a very popular programming language everywhere. So what we did was start integrating Python into our data organization piece. And then the other thing that we found was, going back to some of the cost issues, we had to make it less expensive to connect to existing buildings. And we really do primarily work in the existing building space. Next one. And one more. And hit it a couple more times. You're not clicking right. There we go. All right. So from a data organization, just keep clicking. This is something that we built a long time ago, actually. So we call these device profiles or templates. And similar to what Mitch and his counterpart were talking about, how do we organize data that's already there? Well, they're working on a process, which actually I'd like to talk to you more about, from an existing building standpoint, or from an existing project standpoint. We're trying to do it in an existing building standpoint. So we built templates for just about any type of mechanical equipment or systems. Helps us create relationships. It really does give us an organized data set that we can start working with. And more importantly, now you can do something with it. Apparently now my emails are up. That's all right. Hit it one more time. And I heard the question too, and truthfully, I appreciated the honesty of your answer. And here's one of the big challenges as a small business, whether it's mine or yours or, well, maybe not Nate's because he's in a big business. Putting documentation together is tough for a small business. How do we get it out there? How do we distribute it? How do we make it available? We've started using GitHub, and several other places, because you can't just put them all your trade secrets and everything that out into an open space. But you do have to give a level of communication so that we can enable more people to be able to do data organization and drive action and certainly create results. Okay. One more. And one more again. All right. So the integration with Python was also very unique. So today, the platform that we have has got a very, robust data organization set. We created a lot of flexibility inside of it, but what we've learned is we don't have a monopoly on good ideas. I mean, there's ways people want to see things. There's specific reports that people want. They want things more automated. They want to try and drive action in their own way. And just because we have a process, or you have a process, or he has a process, doesn't mean it's the process that our customers or our clients or the people that we work with are using. So we had to create a level of flexibility to allow data to be distributed through the processes that they're using. Hit it a couple more times here, but. So these are just some examples. With Python, if you're not familiar with it, like I said, very robust. Whether you're using a ChatGPT or whatever AI that you're working with, it will actually write code for you. Or you can put some level of code in there and it will find the errors for you and correct them. And then you can start adding variables for it. So we've created examples that we'll share, and we do share on our platform and on a public website. But here are just a few examples of airflow distribution inside of a healthcare facility. A monthly summary report around energy. One of the other nice parts about that application is it's almost unlimited visualization. So whatever type of chart or graph or visualization you want to create from the data that you've got, Python can help them do it. Or you can do it for them. One of the other things is helping to drive action then too. So how many times have you been asked, can you integrate with the work order management system? My answer has always been, we can do it. Just back up your Brinks truck and open up the door, because it's a waste of money. You can solve a lot of problems through process. Can we talk about why, how, what you really want, and let's figure out a less expensive and more efficient way to do it. Okay, one more time. Here's just another couple of examples. How many times have we talked to a healthcare facility about OR setbacks? No, we can't do that. That's the money-generating area of the hospital. Well, you can do it. And let us show you how much money you're wasting. Let us show you where all of this air is really going. And let us show you how much occupancy there really is. When we start creating visuals that people can understand, I think that's where we start getting some different decisions, certainly some different actions. One more. All right. Some of the other things that we can do today now too is predictive. So taking real data, taking, I'll say predicted data, whether that's around weather, whether that's around, future conditions, and now starting to create models around how should we operate a plant? How should we operate a building? How should we operate a system differently? Based on data that we've already collected and weather or occupancy data that we can, pull from an expected source. A couple more. One more. And we'll just go to the next one, because I think, how much time do I have?
3 minutes.
Yeah. So here's an example that's fairly recent of a large chiller plant at a university that we work with, from predicted data to actual data to help them make better decisions on how they operate their, 10,000-ton chiller plant. You make a 1 or 2% difference inside of the efficiency of that plant. That is not an insignificant amount of money. I mean, you can almost pay for a quarterback at their school for the amount of money they're going to save. Okay, one more. And one more, So one of the other things that we're working on, this is a beta project. So talking about data, I said some nice things about Ed before, so he wouldn't get mad at me about this one. One of our other big challenges is this. We talked about cost, right? When we're talking about the analytics side, cost has been a real big challenge. And when we're just trying to pull data out of a building, today we use Niagara. But we have instances of our application where the cost to just get the data out far exceeds the licensing cost that we charge, or anybody does, for the analytics engine. And as much as I'm a supporter of Niagara, similar to Mitch, I really do believe it's the best product out there. We work with a lot of contractors that it's their biggest competitor. And they like the product that we provide, but they don't want to put an element of Niagara inside of their building. So they came to us and said, make us an engine that will do what you need it to do without introducing my biggest competitor. So we started working on basically a new platform to pull data efficiently and organize it without that introduction at a much lower cost. And we call that data links. So these are graphics because it's not a finished product yet. This will be coming out here in the second quarter, but essentially it's a way for us to connect to today BACnet systems and in the future Modbus and others. And we talked about a ton of APIs, but in truth, we're bringing everything back to a control system anyway. So what we're trying to do, again, and I'll borrow a couple things that have already been said, we got to try and make it as simple as we can without trying to please everybody, because we're never going to do that. So ultimately, data links will be a new method for us to connect to existing buildings or other control systems already in place to help drive things like a 179D project, or prove out that yes, we do need a new control system, and at the end of the day, really drive to this action and validation that ultimately is the goal that we're all trying to achieve. So I want to be conscious of time. That's what I got. Again, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. That's great.